Hello and welcome to the Jack and the Geekstalk Book Squad. I am going to start with an apology because this video is very late. So late that I've had to skip a month. So this today is me reviewing the book that I read in January, which I announced all the way back in December, actually before Christmas, because we did Book Squad early in December. And then it got to January, I read the book within about 3 days, and then just did not get any chance to film the video. And I missed the end of January, and I haven't had a chance to get it up early enough in February for it to be viable to then read the next book. So we are skipping a book for February, and instead this video is going up at the end of February announcing the book for March. So an apology that already only 2 months into 2018 I've had to skip one, but sometimes life gets in the way. But anyway, moving on from that and on a much more positive note, let's talk about the January read, which was Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I mentioned when I chose this book that I've read quite a few John Green books before, some of which I've really loved and some I've not enjoyed as much. I think with John Green, there is generally a pattern to his stories. Obviously they're young adult books, so they tend to focus on teenage characters who generally generally are suffering through, some difficult circumstances, whether it be, physical health or mental health or, whatever else might be going on, some sort of difficult or changing kind of times. Get embroiled in some sort of mystery or just unusual events, really. And this isn't an exception. This follows that similar kind of vein, but the story is really well written. But for me, the strength of this book is entirely down to the characterisation. It's written from the perspective of 16-year-old Asa, who has quite complex mental health issues. And the way that is explored, I felt it was dealt with very sensitively, but also quite bluntly. Brutal with his portrayal of her mental health difficulties and her anxiety and the paranoia. And I found that captivating. I found her more captivating than the actual kind of mystery in the story. And it's a really interesting way of looking at how someone's mental health can affect their friendships, not just how it affects them, but how it affects others around them, and how isolating it can be. And I personally found just that the characterisation was incredibly believable. It was incredibly well written. Not a huge amount really happens. And one of the things that happens a lot in John Green books is nothing much ever really gets resolved, and there's no sort of big happy ending, but that's quite good. It sort of adds to the realism of it. But yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I really did. It was a nice, easy read. I wouldn't say it's the most uplifting of stories, but I also wouldn't say it's massively depressing. Yeah, I'm glad that I read it, and yeah, there's not really much more I can say about it, to be honest. So that some others did read this as well back in January. So Ken, who is at Ken Major 83, says, I felt the story gave an insight into the daily struggles of tackling anxieties. As the story is told through Asa, the reader can really develop an understanding of how she feels. The billionaire plotline was the least interesting part of the novel, but I can appreciate that Green needed a reason for Asa and Davis to meet. I've enjoyed this just as much as the other John Green books that I've read. Sounds like we were on very much the same wavelength with that one then, Ken. I agree, the billionaire plotline didn't add much. Drunk Guys Book Club, who are at Drunk Guys BC, said, like the other John Green books, fun and creative, and the kids speak way too cleverly to be believable. See our comments on Fault in the Stars episode. just replace cancer with mental illness and you get the idea. So I think I get what you're saying. His books do, I think the stories in his books tend to be a bit formulaic. And I do know what you mean about the kids in it. They don't speak how you would, or certainly not how I spoke as a teenager, and not how teenagers that I know necessarily speak. They tend to be, but I think that's part of the charm, is it's part of the fact that they are not average teenagers. So thank you for your tweets, for those of you that read that one. So now that brings us on to the book for March. Now this is the book that I'd picked, that I was going to pick for February, but obviously I didn't manage a proper video at the end of January, so instead I'm just shifting it forward by a month, and it is the book for March, and it is The Midnight Palace by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. And I did have to check, because I always say Zui Rafon and get it round the wrong way. I have read a few of his books. I started, I think, with The Shadow of the Wind, and I think I've read pretty much all of the others, or at least all of the others that are translated to English. I think there might be some Spanish ones that haven't been released in the UK, and my Spanish is probably not up to the standard that I could actually read an entire novel in Spanish. But this one I've actually had in my bookcase for a few years actually, and I've just never got round to reading it. I think I forgot that I had this as a new book. So I am quite looking forward to getting stuck into this, because I love his other books, and if you haven't read any others, even if you don't read The Midnight Palace and don't read along this month, please go and read other books by him, because he is really a fantastic author. The Shadow of the Wind kind of series are honestly amazing. I don't really have a massive idea what it's about other than what the blurb said. However, the blurb is quite long, so I'm not going to read that right now. But it does say originally published in Spain as a young adult novel, which I didn't realise that, and I don't think the others are actually young adult novels. So this might be a bit different to some of the others that I've read by him. But I'm really looking forward to getting stuck in, and hopefully some of you will too. I have already had one suggestion in for a future read. And it sounds very interesting and exciting, so that might be the April book, but please keep suggestions coming in, and when I get suggestions that I think we should go for, I will just put them on a little list, and we'll have them for future months rather than it just being me choosing. Thank you so much to everybody that did interact with us, and be sure to head over to our Twitter page where we are at Jack and the Geekstalk, to go and tell us what you either thought about Turtles All the Way Down. If you've read Midnight Palace or you're going to read it, let us know, and any other suggestions that you have. You can also find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube, of course, where this is, Jack and the Geekstalk, or Jack Geekstalk, and you will find us. That is it. I know this is quite a short video, but at least it's a video. It's more than I managed at the end of January, and hopefully, all being well, I'll see you at the end of March. Thanks, bye!